Hello there everyone, so let's review today some other faction. In this case it will be the realm of the Galahdrim. So I already have the footnotes here. Basically I can tell you that it's kind of like a long campaign. I mean it's average, let's say. I'm going to explain why, because they're kind of closer than any other factions, you know. But we'll go through them. So they do have some interesting units. We're going to show those. I'm going to show the ideas. Usually I don't show the units details, so I thought make a battle, for instance, that I'll show you every single unit. Never occurred to me, honestly. I mean, it's kind of like I prefer that you go in and try to have a look for yourself as well. But it's also because, you know, usually when I'm playing, I'm not checking the models. It's something that usually doesn't happen because, you know, I'm focusing on winning the battle or whatever. Okay, so let's go into this. Basically, this is your start. You know, there's not too much of a deal. You know, you start with two places, but you know, let's check out what we have to do. So you have to destroy Shadow of Mordor and Shadow of Mirkwood. So Mirkwood being here and Mordor being over there, of course. You know, you already know where Barad-dûr is. It's pretty streamlined, so I put it as an average campaign. I mean, it's probably the shortest of the Elves campaign. If you want a short Elven campaign, go for the Galahdrim, because they're not going to delve too much to the north. I mean, you're going to have the Valesmen helping you out. You're going to have Khazad-dûm, unless Isengard completely owns Rohan, which usually doesn't happen because Rohan. The problem with Rohan is that they have too many threats on all sides, and you as the Elves, you'll be fighting against those. So that will give Rohan the edge that they kind of need against Isengard. But if they do own them, well then, you can pretty much just go on the same way while reaching out to Mordor, you know. So you can rush Dol Guldur, but careful, because Dol Guldur has a lot of units and you do not start with lots of units, nor the way to produce lots of units. I mean, you're gonna have quite some quite some time to do so. You do start with plenty of free upkeep here, and there's also the possibility of capturing this rebel fort for additional ones, additional free upkeep. But free upkeep is going to be very important. Now, you can make peace. By the way, I would like to show you that you're actually at war with the Orcs of the Misty Mountains, but you can make peace with them. Every single Orcish faction, you can actually make peace immediately in the beginning. So that would be something that I would consider. You know, sending a diplomat straight up north, getting some good relations with the Valesmen and peace with the Orcs, and then going for, you know, Mirkwood or Dale, the Dwarves. That would be the main aspect. You do start with a spy, and the use of the spy, you can actually use it in two ways. I would send it to Dol Guldur to make sure that I'm not attacked while I keep conquering the nearby settlements, but you do have to rush down. Okay, let's go in and talk about some other stuff. So you're not going to get a lot of money from diplomats because your map is pretty much this. So don't count on that money. Now, you're going to get like 300 apiece for your maps, and that's about it. You do start with a healthy amount of money, which helps, but it will all go in very soon. Now, in terms of rushing, you actually, I'm going to say this on after I'm analyzing the military, because you actually have very good units for ambushing, which is almost awesome. What I would say about this campaign is that it actually depends too much on Dol Guldur's actions. If they go north and they leave you a little bit alone, you have some time to, you know, to prepare yourself, to get some further units, like to get a very good stack of death. You know, that's pretty much, you know, Elven units are like that. You know, you just get a huge stack of death and you go for it. So let's go on the situation. Let's get on to the military. So, in terms of the military, this is what I would like to show you. So in terms of stables, they do have Lorien Scouts, which are missile cavalry, and you do have the Lorien Lances, which are, you know, basic medium cavalry. This is not a very heavy cavalry, but their charge bonus is really good. So, you know, these can be relied upon even as you need, you know. So in terms of stables, you're actually going to be just fine. However, in terms of barracks, that's where I want to enter. Now, let's get on the best ones. You do have plenty of options like you're checking here, but they do lack anti-armor, and they're kind of more archer-based, let's say, so I'm going to show you. Lorien Wardens, you know, these guys are just basic spearmen. It's fine. Then you have Lorien Sentries, and these are kind of like the same. You can check that. I mean, I don't think there's actually a reason for me to get the Lorien Sentries other than, you know, the fact that it's basic swords units to send. You know, I would honestly go always for the warders if needed. Then you actually have these guys, Gurdunin. They can hide anywhere, and look at that attack. These are very good units. You know, it's kind of one of the things that I would love to abuse is the fact that these guys can hide anywhere. So kind of use them like a surprise ambush to get the death of them. Now you do have Yovanna's Chosen, which, you know, they can do Shieldrum. This is not a shield wall, and it's also not the pike wall. So they're still really good units, rather, you know, rather costly, but they have bonuses versus mounted units. So, you know, you have the Sentinels of Sarin Amroth. Now these are very good units, attack 12 and defense 22. They're expensive, but still will be nice. And then let's go into the Albereth Guards and the Albereth Swordsmen. So these are basically your elite spearmen. And then you have the elite swordsman. You can see the stats there. They're really cool. They cost exactly the same and have the same upkeep. So these will be your elite units later on. Let's check out the archers and why I was talking. You did notice that they're not a single unit here is actually anti-armor. So that's important to state. Now let's check on the stables. Do we have anything that is anti-armor? Well, I'm afraid not. Lorien archers are really cool. But you think about the upkeep 315, you actually checked that there's... I would rather pay 500 for a much better unit, you know. So you also have the Gurveleg. Now this is very interesting. This is almost overpowered. 14 missile attack. It's kind of like it's higher than javelin attacks, and these guys have exceptional. So they are kind of like javelin. You know, their range is 7 meters and only 6. Even though they have the archer there. Yeah, remember, did I say that? Yes, they're very interesting units. But this range is even overpowered for javelins. This is very good range for a javelin unit. Usually they have like 50 or 60. 70 means that you can actually shoot javelin units before. And since you can hide anywhere, and they're effective against armor and skilled against mounts, I would use these guys as much as possible. You know, just flanking. You can still have the other units hidden as well that will engage anyone that will go against them. So think about that. That should be a very good experience to play. Then you have, of course, the ranges of Lothlorien. These are your medium, let's say, archers. They're still very exceptional, and the range is above elite status. I mean, there's elite units that don't have that range. And finally, you have the Albereth archers. You know, you can see that they do not have the same range there, nor the same accuracy. So I'd always go for the ranges if possible. I mean, they're actually cheaper, and the missile attack is much higher. You know, I checked this during the... And I don't think there's any reason that you should go for Albereth archers too soon. I mean, just get a couple of them because you want to be able to recruit only ranges of Lothlorien. There's a limit, you know, to the availability of them. They will take time to replenish, but still, go for the Albereth archers sparingly. I would always focus getting the Gurveleg and getting the ranges of Lothlorien. That's why I'm mentioning this is pretty much an archer-based faction. So let me talk about the bodyguards. Actually, the bodyguards is one of the best. Albereth Sentinels. I mean, these guys have, you know, you have 37, yeah, but with exceptional range, the range is really cool. They do not cost a lot in upkeep for a unit this like with these stats, so get as many bodyguards as possible. You also do note that your Lord Caliborn is actually Elberth gods. They're not really that. They're very OP in terms of upkeep. But this is pretty much a unit of spearmen, and you do start with Haldir, which is a different matter because Haldir is actually Galahdrim Mark Wardens. You also have access to these guys. Get them as much as you can. I mean, you'll have the special ability, the Light of Albereth, with this guy, but you know, these guys just have impressive range and good accuracy with that missile attack. It's really cool. The upkeep is not as good, but you know, get them as much as you can, of course. So, spoken as well about the generals and the agents. I already skipped a little bit. Now let's talk about finances, and this is the bigger problem of all level factions except the Grey Havens of Linden, and it's pretty much, I think, one of the worst factions to start. I'm going to explain why. There's no mines nearby. There's nothing that can boost your economy. Nothing. You can start watching every single effect of these, you know, and it will be just minor. You can see that it will increase a little bit. I'll actually show you. You know, it's nothing. So nothing that you do will increase a lot. I would go just for growth and captures. You really need, this is the problem with this faction, I'll state it right away. You start with very few units, you start with a very bad economy. If you move your units away, you will have an even worse economy. So you need to move the units away in order to get a better economy. If you move your units away, their cost upkeep, so you have a worse economy. So whenever you're moving out, make sure that you have enough units to capture and to remain on the field for quite some time, you know, to destroy anything that comes. The initial fights are pretty fine. I mean, you'll be asked to capture some places here, here, and here. You might not be able to reach this the settlement that is over here soon enough. If you rush for it, you can reach it. I would recommend, if you can, just rush for it. Although that will leave you very vulnerable against Dol Guldur. Be very careful with that. That's why I would send the Galahdrim spy. Additionally, you can also rush Dol Guldur and capture it. It's a good idea, but that will mean that you will pretty much relinquish the conquests, the early conquests, if you do so. And these will be in Rohan hands. I mean, unless you're planning to betray Rohan later on, I wouldn't go for that. So you kind of have that early decision to make. Do I go and rush Dol Guldur, or do I just try to get a couple of cities and then go into Dol Guldur? But you know, approximately at 10:30, you will already be sieging Dol Guldur, at least. You know, that's what I would say. So also consider that your recruitment is not too much. I mean, this is the only building, I believe, that gives you any income at all early on, and even then it's not as overpowered, let's say. You do need as many trade agreements as you can, and for sure I would recommend halls of music everywhere. You need the free upkeep units. It also will allow you to produce some generals, so that's cool. So go for the halls of music. Try to remain in your city enough time so that you're not going to pay the obnoxious upkeep. You know, your king's purse is 2,000. 2,000, it's like nothing. You're gonna spend it with just, if I would send these units, I would be immediately with a problem with that because of the army upkeep. You see, it costs 1,600. That's just the 2 lords and this archer unit, because the other ones are free upkeep. So there's nothing else. You don't have any further units. So you start with 5 units in total. That's about the lowest that anyone gets. Okay, so like I noted, okay, you have 2 good generals. That's about it. You know, I haven't shown this guy's ability. You know, he does have the special ability of swiftness. You can read it there. It's really cool for reducing the fatigue. I mean, this is cool to have. Let's say that you're peppering down with arrows the enemy army, and you're pretty far away, so that they had to move to you. and then you use this ability and you go farther away from them so that you can um, attack them again, you know, which is kind of cool. It may buy you a couple of extra shots, which makes all the difference usually. So, you know, go for it. I think this guy is not a Night Fighter, but this guy is a Night Fighter, which is really cool. Yeah, he's a Night Fighter, so also consider this. Right, I think that is it for the realm of the Galahdrim, guys. Sorry that I usually don't play too much. You know, it's just showing you what I believe. It's a very interesting faction to play with, but I think the average campaign is actually what excites me more. I would go straight up here, in all honesty. To rush Dol Guldur, it's a rather difficult matter, and I think you kind of lose a lot on this. Of course, if you rush Dol Guldur, you will have to use and abuse this rebel fort, and Dol Guldur does bring out some evil guys and cavalry units, so be careful with that. Okay, hope you enjoyed the faction and the faction overviews, and I'll see you guys next time on the next faction. That will be the Woodland Realm. See you guys. Cheers.